President. I rise to make my contribution to this debate for the amendments to the Drug Prevention of Misuse Act, which we first presented in the lower house. It came to this the lower house about 2 weeks ago. But after the passing of the expungement of records bill 2 weeks ago, I am pleased that this bill is on the table, because to me it sends a clear message that the St. Lucia Labour Party government really and truly believes in social justice and recognition of the constitutional rights of our people. Now, Mr. President, permit me just for a moment to acknowledge the work of Dr. Rosemary Bell Antoine, who was given the opportunity by CARICOM heads in 2014 to chair the Cannabis Commission to investigate the regulation of cannabis in fellow CARICOM countries. And I believe whilst this started with her, right before the United Workers' Party administration came into power, her strides in this regard cannot go unnoticed. But Mr. President, while some might say that this bill is a long time coming, I have to say that what we are doing today, will go down in history as this Labour Party, St. Lucia Labour Party government makes strides towards social justice and protection of the rights of our people as our Constitution will have it. And I will explain as I go on. And so I wish to draw your attention to the proposed amendment of Section 8A, the insertion of a new Section 8A which makes provision for the exemption from criminal liability, Mr. President. When we look at the history of cannabis, we must be made aware, for those who are not aware, that this plant was once legal. In the 1830s thereabout, this plant was once legal. And as a result of the competitive nature of the alcohol industry, cannabis was then classed as in Class A and Class B of other drugs such as cocaine and other drugs. So, Mr. President, my thinking is that it was once legal. Now it is legal. Now we are infringing on the constitutional rights of our people, and it seems like this is not regarded as a serious issue. But I will explain to you why I believe it is absolutely necessary for us to do this at this time. But I just want to say that even as far back as the 1830s, the Americans and the Europeans were using cannabis, and cannabis could have been found and recommended by a doctor. It was found in the stores, and you could go to a doctor and it would have been recommended. And it is registered, the experiences of doctors, that cannabis also contributed to minimizing the pain that persons back then who suffered under the cholera pandemic, who suffered from vomiting and stomach pain, it really helped in easing their symptoms. So I certainly look forward to when we come back to this Honorable House to discuss the medicinal regulation of this drug. And I say come back, Mr. President, because I really want us to understand. No pa fair by viti vi. All right? We do not say for something that has been illegal for more than my entire existence, and I'm 33 years old, for more than the existence of our country, which is 42 years old, Mr. President. We are indeed making strides to see that we can go into a positive direction. So we do it today. And of course, I do want to acknowledge the comments of the independent Senator Lee, who did say that the bill needs to provide a bit more clarification as to where we get the drug from. But I do not want to delve into what I believe is the hypocrisy of us pretending to not understand that this indeed exists in our society. But Mr. President, of course, when we see the cultivation or aspects of cultivation of cannabis come before the House, we know that it will be in more detail. So to the senator, through you, Mr. President, I don't think it's as easy as just a one-liner, because I do believe that it would require a lot of consultation. Notwithstanding the fact that CARICOM countries were commissioned to investigate the regulation of the industry in 2014, and the United Workers' Party came to office in 2016, it still took them 6 years to even come into this House and do anything about it. And of course, they paid lip service to the Rastafarian community. And I just want to draw your quick attention, Mr. President, to our Constitution. Chapter 1 of our Constitution, which speaks to the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. And under Section 9(1), excuse me, the protection of freedom of conscience, and I will just read. Except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of conscience, including freedom of thought and freedom of religion. Freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and both in public and in private, to manifest and propagate his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. Now, isn't the Rastafarian religion a recognized religion in St. Lucia? But yet still, we have seen, and we saw it on social media, we've seen it in the past, and yes, growing up as a child, I would see Rastafarians being pulled by their hair. I will see how they experience the full force of the law because of a joint. And whether they're from the Heights in Forestier in Peterfloor, or in Marker Bexor, or Dennery, or some parts of this country, they have gone through it. Now, Mr. President, I am not a lawyer, but I do have some understanding of what 30 grams of cannabis will look like. And I believe it's probably a little bigger than my hand, what that might look like. And the amendment that we are putting forward today speaks to that amount per person. So I am not quite sure that this really restricts the Rastafarian community, because this amount of cannabis, I don't know that anybody can possibly smoke that in one day alone. So the argument being made of whether this is sufficient for the Rastafarian community, I stand corrected. But through my discussions with persons of this community, it seems to be sufficient. And they are really pleased and happy with the amendment that is being brought to us today. But Mr. President, further to this, as I said, the St. Lucia Labour Party administration decided that it was a responsible thing to come into this House 2 weeks ago to expand the records of persons, particularly young people, because they represent the majority of our public, who were sentenced to a term of 3 years or less in prison, provided that their release to the public will not put the public in danger and is in the best interest of the public. I thought that was a remarkable achievement for us to do, less than a month in office, to say that we are giving our people a second chance. Mr. President, this bill, this amendment to this legislation is another part, another aspect of this, and can be viewed similarly. We are giving our people a second chance. Can you imagine, Mr. President, on my way to the Senate this morning, I received a call from a very distraught social activist who told me that it was yesterday a 19-year-old young man was stabbed in bodily, and he is currently in critical condition. The family only just found out about that. I am not saying that we are making strides in giving people second chances just because, but with what is going on, these young men continue to find themselves in situations where if they are not given that second opportunity, they might just stay in Body Lake, God forbid, and rot because we are not taking into consideration the number of them who have been there for just a small amount of cannabis. And Mr. President, like I said, it took 6 years for the opposition, when they were in government, to bring it to the House. But it took the St. Lucia Labour Party less than a month to make it an area of importance, giving people a second chance. Just the same way, last week, we had the Minister of Education make a statement that 4,000 laptops will be distributed to our children of St. Lucia. In less than 1 month, our caring Prime Minister said that our priority has been to protecting our people, giving our people a second chance, addressing the issue of COVID, and of course, taking care of our children and ensuring that they find opportunities to go to school. So, Mr. President, just to give you an example of why we believe these things are so important, we even saw that the bursary assistance, when the government said that there was no money, we had to find the allowance to give parents that relief, where we have children now benefiting from that bursary assistance. And I am one of those who benefited back in 2000 under the St. Lucia Labour Party administration. I know what this means to people. So while some might see this as some simple legislation and this is not a priority, I don't ascribe to that. I do believe that it is a priority. And of course, with the amendments we see here, I believe that it is very responsible of a St. Lucia Labour Party government to include those amendments. And I will direct your attention, Mr. President, to Section 5, which is the insertion of the new Section 14A, which speaks of the treatment and programs for a child or young person. And I do want to note that a change has been made from young offenders to young person who have been found in possession of cannabis. Whilst we are making strides in respecting the rights, and I highlighted of the Rastafarian community, in allowing our people a bit more latitude, as a leader of government business spoke of earlier, that you can now have in your possession maximum 30 grams of cannabis, we are still taking the public health approach in reminding our people that it is not a free-for-all, and it should not under any circumstances be encouraged, or any adult should be encouraging any child to participate in consumption or even possession of cannabis. So there you see, the prudent and responsible thing is that we will have, if a child is found in possession, they will be required to participate in a drug counseling program, approved in consultation with the child, the parent, the guardian. And of course, we want to address those issues whilst they are young. Mr. President, I did address the issue of not fully understanding where the independent senator was coming from when he spoke of the Rastafarian community and the amount and the ability for them to practice publicly. But I also made note of Senator Polius's, through you, comment about this still restricting the Rastafarians in the Rastafarian community. And maybe in the rebuttal of one of her members, they could provide some more clarification on what she really meant by that, because there is a provision in Section 27A under Section 4, Part B2, which reads, establishment except for such area forming part of the establishment as may be specifically designated by the management of the establishment as an area where smoking is permitted. So indeed, there are provisions for smoking to be permitted in public areas. And of course, if this is part of the religious practices of the Rastafarian community, that doesn't mean that they are excluded. They are part of, and if they have designated areas that they smoke in their own community, in their church, I don't know how this bill can be misinterpreted to suggest that they are not included in this at all.
On a point of order, Mr. President, I'm standing on a point of order, 42. Sorry, 41C. The the senator did not say, just want to correct the comment that she made.
Senator, did you say 41C?
Point of clarification.
Oh, sorry, a point of clarification, yes, 41C. The senator is really misleading the House.
You are
Is it
referring to the
41C?
wrong section, Senator.
Which one is it?
The principal is the same, she's misleading that. We want to clarify something.
If you're rising on a point of order, you need to direct the senator as to the contents of her presentation that you take issues
What is the
with.
point of clarification? You want to clarify?
Can I proceed?
So, Mr. President, I simply...
On what grounds do you rise, Senator?
It is the statement that the senator made regarding my presentation as it relates to the lack of consideration given to the Rastafarian in the bill. I did not say that the bill was or wrong interpretation, or I was interpreting this to be that the Rastafarians are being restricted. Sorry, that is not what I said. I said that provision should be made, and that should be explicitly stated.
Senators, we can't have both of y'all rising at the same time. So, Senator, you did yield for Senator Paulius to make her contribution. You yielded. Please allow her to continue.
Oh, she's not done. Oh, my apologies.
Continue, Senator.
Senator, sorry, Mr. President, I have already made my point. I just wanted the senator to be very careful that she does not misinterpret what I said and not to mislead the House.
Continue, Senator Jawahir.
Thank you, Mr. President, but I'm not sure if the senator is confused by her statements, because she did say that there were no provisions for the Rastafarian community to practice in public spaces. She did say that. So I can move on, Mr. President. As I said, I do believe that this bill comes at a very important time, and the question did come up about whether now is the right time to do it. And I think no time better than the now to give our people a second chance. And I believe that I have made a sufficient argument, especially for our young people who have been incriminated for possession of marijuana in the past, even for possession of a joint, like the independent senator gave an example earlier. And these things still exist. But this bill, this amendment bill, is now saying that we are making strides in the right direction. And again, Mr. President, as I said earlier, I do not believe that because we think the train has left us, that we need to bring everything to the table and do it now. The St. Lucia Labour Party administration has only been in government for about 1 month. We have come under the premise of giving our people a second chance. And of course, I do believe, and as the Prime Minister has stated before, and as the leader of government business stated earlier in his presentation, that we will be back for more discussion. Of course, we are going to talk about cultivation. Of course, we are going to talk about the medicinal value. And of course, we are going to talk about the economic value of introducing cannabis in St. Lucia. But we will do so in a very responsible manner. And Mr. President, of course, I look forward to when that discussion comes. And I just wanted to express my full support for the amendments made, because I believe they are very responsible in terms of the amendments for the Drug Prevention of Misuse Bill. Thank you.